All right, welcome back everybody to episode 7 of the YMAO Podcast. I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit, but I I am so tired. So maybe I don't have the hang of it. I'm trying to post every single day and I don't know how healthy it is or if it's good for my mental health just cuz I'm spending more time in general thinking about different things to deal with or how to figure out the problems that I'm currently dealing with in my life. And maybe it's helping you guys. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm really tired. Today, I think I'm just going to keep starting with my day until I have better topics or better questions from you guys. So, today I was really tired, did some editing, made sure that some content went out on my TikTok and the YouTube channel. So let me know how it goes. It was a little rough, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that I was cooking it up and I thought that I came up with something really cool, like a really cool idea. And the film, the background footage, like the B film that I got was just really bad. I recorded it with my iPhone and I didn't really pay attention to the frames per second or the resolution. I kind of just took the videos and I totally forgot that when I used to film on an iPhone, I just had the lowest settings and the first video is pretty, yeah, it's not pretty in general. So why did I still post it? I think it was just kind of, I did work hard on it. I mean, not super hard. I think it took me anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to put it together, but it took some time to just construct, and the first copy is never going to be perfect. The first thing that you do is never going to be perfect. And so I would be a hypocrite if I tried to tell people that they shouldn't be perfectionists and they should just put out the work that they're working on and focus on making the next one better if I didn't do it myself. So that is how the first video went out. And it's basically like a highlight from the first podcast episode. I thought it was a really cool format to help kind of sponsor the episode. It had an interesting take, I think, because usually podcast episodes just kind of show people speaking on a mic, and I thought that this was a little bit different. I felt like it was very much me because sometimes I feel uncomfortable being on camera if it's not like a live podcast, if I have to sit down and film and watch my lighting, and it feels like there's so much preparation that goes into it and it kind of takes away from being myself. And maybe that might be me not being used to the whole social media aspect, but I think that it was a lot more natural for me to create a product, which is that video, kind of like that. So yeah, I feel like I have a format now and I'm creating content, and it's a nice challenge because it always pushes me to find better film or to learn how to talk better and to pronunciate and not use filler words, which I don't know how well I'm doing. Hopefully I'm doing better. But yeah, I think that this is now, like I said before, my ninth iteration. I'm still working on how to keep things dynamic or how to talk about things that are super interesting, and I haven't cracked the code yet. But on the content front, things seem to be coming together, and on the like the work, or I guess the life balance side, that's kind of the part of my work life. And then on the life balance part, I feel like I'm trying to get back into it. So I tried playing volleyball today. Uh, Anyone who's been watching has known that I have had a knee injury the past week and a half, maybe a week and 3/4, and I decided to play volleyball today for 4 hours. And I'm really happy that I didn't hurt my knee. I did end up hurting my hip, trying to dive for some volleyballs, but I feel like my form and how I was diving was really different because I was just trying to avoid not hurting the knee that I was already hurting. So in general, I felt super handicapped. I felt like I wasn't able to play my best, and it almost had frustration in itself to kind of be in the game, and I thought that it would be enough to just play with some friends and to enjoy it. But I think I just started getting these thoughts of thinking like, oh, I'm letting people down. I'm not able to support people as best as I can, and it almost felt like I was going into this session, or during the session, it just felt like I was super half-assed. It felt I guess equally frustrating as not playing. So I guess there wasn't really a winning situation of either stepping out and not playing, or playing and not being able to play as best as I could. And yeah, I feel like there has to be a way to channel this frustration into doing something better, but it's kind of hard because I guess, I mean, now that I'm saying it out loud, I could use the frustration to work on my other projects, to put time into things that I haven't been putting time into since I have a break from volleyball and I have more time now. But I think my brain, before talking to you guys, it felt like volleyball is related to volleyball, and in volleyball world, the thing that I'm worrying about is recovering, and I kind of drew a boundary or a line between what were my current issues. So yeah, now that I say it out loud, I should probably just take the time away from volleyball, come back to it, and tackle it in a better way. If you guys, so I've been doing a lot of research. I also saw some physical therapists and talked to some friends who were athletes. And to tell the story, I started playing volleyball in January. And so, I've been doing this for 5-6 months, and particularly the past 2 months, I have been playing 4 to 5 times a week. And so when I was talking to these physical therapists, and they were telling, we were trying to diagnose a problem, they would usually start by saying, oh, well, for a newer athlete, playing 4 to 5 times a week is usually super straining and not something you should do. And the first thing that I thought was, so you think that I'm a new athlete? Like, I felt so proud to be an athlete, but at the same time, I was like, I don't think this is the context that I should be proud of, to be honest. But it was really I don't know, it was really cool to be called an athlete. It was really cool to not to hurt my knee, but just kind of like to get diagnosed as an athlete, I guess. But they pretty much told me that it was a bunch of wear and tear, and from just straining myself too much. And they also think it's tendonitis, but it's nothing crazy like an ACL or a meniscus tear, so things are okay-ish. I guess the best thing that I can do is to not get injured next time, and to just try and form a better schedule so that I'm not playing volleyball all the time and I'm taking the time to recover and to heal. I think that's kind of what I need to go back to, and I need to learn how to do exercise on my own. Yeah, because I kind of tried replacing the gym with volleyball, and this I guess goes for any sport or anyone else who tries this, who's kind of a new athlete and doesn't know how to adapt to the situation. But yeah, like I I thought that I could just play sports 4 to 5 times a week, and used to say like, okay, well, I used to go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, so this should be pretty similar in terms of workload. But the thing that I didn't consider was that when you're playing sports, you're using the same muscle groups over and over again. And if you play 4 to 5 times a week, you're not giving yourself time for your muscles to recover for those particular parts. And in volleyball, that's your knees, your calves, your shins, mainly a lot of your legs and your shoulders. So yeah, don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. if you're getting into sports, no matter what your age is, and you're trying to figure out what to do, do not, at the bare minimum, do not just do 4 to 5 times a week. Take your time, try to balance it out, and realize that muscle strengthening exercises are super important to not just increase flexibility and strengthen your muscles, but also to give time for other muscle groups to heal. So, yeah, that is currently what I've learned for today. Other than that, I played about 4 hours of volleyball. I'm really tired and exhausted, and I'm just trying to push through, to be honest. I'm just trying to find things to say, find things to talk about. Yeah, I don't know if I talked about this actually in the last podcast episode. Oh, I don't think I did, but I realized, so pretty much, I might have actually mentioned it, but I'm gonna go deeper into it anyway. Screw it. I I've been going on a self-improvement journey, been trying to figure out what makes me happy. Might have mentioned it briefly in the last podcast, but realized that um, it is not good to chase happiness in general. And more importantly, I realized that I didn't have an issue with being happy in my life because I'm often just like a simple person. Like I like having bread and bagels and just spending time, or just not having any problems is honestly my cup of tea, or any drama. So pretty simple, bare bones. And so it confused me why I wasn't happy, and then I realized that happiness is emotion, and you can't you can't feel happy all the time. Like sometimes you're not going to feel happy, sometimes you are, and that's just the way that life is. And so it seemed almost crazy for me to chase happiness all the time. It's just not a thing. And then eventually, while like sifting through books and reading and going online to figure out answers, I came across one of my childhood YouTubers that I've been a fan of, and he has a podcast, and sometimes I listen to it, and I recently have been getting back into it. It's the Genius Brain Podcast, I think it's called. Genius Brain Podcast by David So. He used to be a stand-up comedian, and now he does a podcast. He probably does a lot of other things. I think he has clothing brands. But he tackled a podcast episode where he talked about happiness and how we shouldn't be chasing for happiness. We should be chasing for a purpose of like doing things, because I wrote this down in my notes, but his ideology is that happiness is a byproduct of chasing a goal, or like it's a byproduct of challenging yourself essentially. And when I thought about that, I thought that made so much sense. And not only that, it felt like it resonated in who I was. And then I realized that part of what made me so happy in the past was because I always had something to work on, and I always got this dopamine hit, or this reward system for the successes that I had. And when I hit failures, I learned to push through, and the successes and the dopamine hits hit even harder because, the failures like were all worth it, Not to say that that happened all the time. There were some failures where I just straight up failed and I didn't feel good about it. But it posed a challenge that made me feel like I was moving somewhere, right? So yeah, now so explaining all that, the whole point was to say that it now feels like I'm happy, that I'm generally happy in my life, and that it's not a problem with happiness. I am content and happy that it is an issue with dissatisfaction, or not being satisfied enough. A little bit of questions on why am I dissatisfied, and maybe that's something to think about, or to talk about a little bit. But the main question for me now is figuring out what my new purpose is. It doesn't have to be a completely new purpose. Maybe it means recentering on some old ones. And this isn't a topic that I haven't visited. I've written multiple journal entries in my online journal and stuff about trying to find a new purpose and trying to figure out what to do after you reach your dreams, right? Like, if you are lucky enough to put a dream so high that it takes your whole life to get to, um, then that's awesome, because you always feel like you never reach that goal. But some people think that way and they end up creating a dream that is actually super attainable for them. I just saw on TikTok that there was a girl who really believed that her most impossible dream that she's been dreaming of for years was to be a PhD student, which is insane because it does take a lot of work to be a PhD student, but there are multiple PhD students everywhere across the countries, across the world. And so it's not necessarily a pipe dream for most people if you give yourself the time. And maybe I'm speaking a little bit egregious or a little bit generalistic. I'm not, maybe everyone's situation is a little bit different, but generally it is not unknown, or it is not impossible to hear of somebody who studies and learns in order to get into a PhD program. So there are some people, including myself, that have created these dreams that we thought would always be dreams, and it turns out that they ended up being tangible goals that could be attained. And so for me, that was taking care of my family and supporting them financially, and I was able to do that. And I had this whole moment, I think when I was 25, 26, and even maybe now, where I spiral a little bit trying to figure out what exactly is my purpose now that I've financially supported my parents and my family the way that I've always wanted to support them. And there's so many different directions to go. I'm not going to lie, I do have a little bit of choice paralysis. But going all the way back to, I think it was like the first or second episode of the podcast, part of finding the purpose, I think, the way my gut is telling me, is to think about what I'm naturally drawn to, right? Like, what are you naturally drawn to? What feels like a challenge that you want to take on? And when I think about that, the first thing that I think about is YouTube and being a content creator. And when I think about that, it almost feels like before there used to be a reason why. Like, for example, I would say, okay, what is like one of my goals? Oh, well, my goal is to be in a lucrative job. And then someone would ask me, why would you want to be in a lucrative job? And I would say, because I would want to support my family. There would be an underlying reason. And maybe there's an underlying reason, more financial stability to creating a second source of income, or being a content creator in general. Like, it seems like a good gig if you can do it right. But it never I can't lie and say that that's the main reason that I'm doing it, because if it was really for money, if it was really like for financial stability, I promise you that I would be a lot more I would be a lot more driven and a lot more hell-bent on trying to make this work and putting in multiple hours. And I guess I'm doing that a little bit now, but I would really be going crazy, just because that has been my mentality. Whenever I get fixated or obsessed over trying to reach a certain goal, it's all I think about and it's all I try to achieve. And I don't get so obsessive that I almost forget, like that I forget everyone around me, but sometimes it's so scary that sometimes it feels like it does, like it borderline does, where I'm just, so tunnel visioned on what I'm trying to achieve that I forget, oh, like it's somebody's birthday, oh, I have to like spend time with people, I have to take the time to relax, oh, I don't even realize that I'm burning out. There's all these things that I don't catch myself doing when I'm in this obsessive nature, and I don't really feel that nowadays. I haven't been pushed into a corner where my fight or flight, my survival instincts kicked in. The stuff with my family and the financial status and stuff, that was all survival stuff. I came from a poor family, so there wasn't really a choice on if I could fail or if I could succeed, like there was only one way that I had to go, or in my opinion, it felt like that way. Like failure wasn't an option. And at least with the content creator stuff and a lot of the purpose driven stuff that I'm doing now, it feels like there is a choice. You know, I can create a flopped video and be okay with it. And I can create this channel and maybe nobody may watch these podcast episodes, but it all just kind of it doesn't have the same gravity. It doesn't have the same gravity as a situation where survival is important, essentially. Like it's not like I was you know, it wasn't like I was in middle school and I was saying to myself like, oh, I have to get a 95 or my family dies. Like that's not the situation, but I think it just had a heavier gravity, and it pushed me to take things a lot more seriously. And given that that is not my situation, and I'm not trying to, like, this isn't a, like, this is a situation where I have, like, it's not going from bad to neutral or bad to okay. It's a situation, like the situation I'm in now is where things are okay and I'm trying to make it better, and there's not that psychological push to do better because, you know, it's there's choices. um I talked about how I dreamed about, I whenever I have a goal, I try to dream about the first thing that I would do if I were to achieve the goal, and that's what would usually motivate me. I think that's part of it. Like I don't really know what the first thing I would do if these passion projects were successful. If, you know, the YouTube channel took off and the app that I make ends up being really amazing and people love it, I I don't know what that looks like. And I feel like that lack of direction for somebody who is very future minded, maybe might be the right word. I'm very focused or oriented towards the future. Whenever I think about stuff, I usually think, oh, like I would rather do this now so that in the future I don't regret it, kind of situation. So hopefully that gives you like an understanding of how my mind works a little bit. But it feels like a giant question mark. This part of my life feels like a giant question mark. Um I don't know what the point of making my situation better would do. Like I think it would make lives better around me, and I think it would put me in a place where I could have more free time and I can enjoy life. But, you know, I feel so happy with the current life that I have. You know, like I have a lot of great things, and I do appreciate it. And I thought I would spend my whole life getting here to this point. And so I think I think that whatever this next purpose is, unfortunately, it is not tied to the community and giving back to people and philanthropy and trying to contribute to be a good person and trying to give back to the community that, you know, that will help support people that were like me in the past. Because honestly, I get the advocacy, but it is not for me in the sense that I can really make a whole, like I can make that my whole purpose. I do that already. I'm not like I am not a hater. I am not a gatekeeper. I do that stuff already. Within the tech field for software engineers, I mentor a lot of people. I speak in panels within my company to talk to university students um, or students with minorities or people that aren't even in universities and trying to learn about tech. I talk to all of them, and I go to so many events, and I go and support mental health events as well. Like I do my piece for the communities that I've been a part of, but and it does bring me joy. Like I'm happy to volunteer, I'm happy to support people, and it does bring a certain level of happiness to me. But it's not me. I'm sorry, like I can't really be like, I don't see myself building like a nonprofit that does this stuff, like that helps support um, university students that are like uneducated because they had immigrant parents. Like it's just not, it's not the way that I want to impact the world. And I think I'm trying to figure that out. Um, I think the main thing is that when it comes to taking care of myself or taking care of people around me or people that I care about, I think the thing that I care about the most is that I see people grow. And people can be on their own timelines, people can grow at their own rate. That's cool. I'm not going to rush anybody. The 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 thing is that I I feel like it isn't as easy as throwing resources at a group of people in order to get them to grow. If you just throw money at somebody, they won't know how to use it. If you just throw textbooks at people, they might not even know how to read it or how to digest all of the information in the textbooks. And they might need a teacher to read through those textbooks or to explain those textbooks. So it's a little bit more complicated to me, I guess, because I guess philanthropy in general, because it doesn't feel like I'm making, it doesn't feel like I'm making the type of impact that I want. Like I want to be able to, make perspective shifts or to say things that will help people, so that even if they aren't watching my content anymore, or even if they're not in my life, they learn things that are important for their own life, so that they can just continue on. Like they can continue and grow and improve and do all these things without me. Like it's, I guess it's something that I learned from therapy. Like my therapist, whenever I get a new therapist, not that it's often, but like in the past I've had like 2 or 3 therapists, and they've always told me, like one of the first things they told me was, the goal to our sessions is to make sure that one day you feel comfortable enough and you have the tools that allow you to just leave and not come back. And I feel like that resonated with the type of help that I want to give people. I don't want to always be around people or to like babysit them. I want people to just go out and live their own lives eventually, and to help them, like help unblock them from whatever makes them feel like they can't live their lives. And I don't know, how to do that, and part of it is because that's not really in my control. Like I say all this stuff, and I say that I want to make this impact, but realistically, there's only so much that somebody can tell a person. There's only so much that I can rant about, yap about. I can yap for like 100 episodes, but if a person doesn't want to listen, or if someone is on a timeline where they're not in a place to digest this information, they're not going to use it at all. And you know and then it becomes a question of, like what do I do, whether it's in my community or people that are close to me. What do I do when somebody is really struggling, and no matter what I say, it doesn't help them? Obviously the answer, thinking about it, is to just be there. Just try to be there for the person if you really care about them. If it's turning into a negative environment, which I've had before in my past, where you want to support them, but you want to support someone, but they're just creating a negative environment for you, then my answer to that is that you should step away from the person, not because you don't care, but because if you stayed in that situation, then there will not be a second chance for you to show support later on in their life. If you don't have the ability to help if what you're doing now isn't able to help somebody, and it's bringing you down, and you really want to help the person, the best thing for you is to just reset, so that if they do come with a question, or they ask you for help, you can actually help them when the time comes. But if you stay there, your mentality is never going to be in check. Your mental stability is never going to be in check. And then you won't, you just won't ever be able to help them when the time comes. It's kind of like one of those things that I thought about, where when I think about things financially and with my family, I think about how I always want to make sure that if they were to ask me for some type of support, like they couldn't pay the mortgage, they couldn't pay utility bills, that I would be able to support that. If I just kept giving, my family money at a drop of a hat, and I didn't save any money for myself, and I didn't take the precaution to save some of those resources for myself, then I wouldn't be able to support them. It's kind of like the idea of how you can't, what's the phrase? You can't pour, oh man, I'm forgetting it. It's something like you have to pour water into your cup before you pour it into others. I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to say it, but the point is that you have to fill your cup up first, and then you can fill up other people's cups of water, or whatever. Like similar phrases, like what is it? Put your oxygen mask on before you help others, kind of thing. I hate that crummier one, because like, I don't know, I don't tie too much into airplanes and airports and whatnot, and honestly, if an airplane is going down, like I would fail to understand, how like it's screwed at that point. Like the mask isn't gonna help whether it's you first or someone else. But at least with the cup of water thing, it's a little bit more symbolic, and you can do it like every day or whatever. And even growing up for myself, I feel like even setting up the table, now that I think about it, I would always fill up people's cups of water before I filled up mine. Like my cup would be the last. And maybe there's some practicality to it, like I'm getting the water, so the last trip would have my glass of water as the last one. But thinking about it, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's like it doesn't matter. Like that was my mentality, but I also could have just filled my cup of water first, and then I could have got everyone else's cup of water. It didn't matter in that case. But for the context of the metaphor and the context of helping people out, and doing things where you make an impact, you always want to think about your capabilities of making an impact, and you should, like, you have to be at 100% so that you can help other people. My mom always said that you can't help other people if you're not getting the right amount of sleep, food, and sleep, food, yeah, and I guess rest, like de-stressing, right? You need to make sure that you do things for yourself at the bare minimum. Like if you're a people pleaser like me, or you want to provide for people like me, this is like, it's all one and the same. Like you have to do a little bit of everything, and doing things for yourself will help you with people pleasing, or help you with providing for people. Nothing Nothing in excess is ever good, and you should try doing a little bit of everything. But just speaking from my own nature, that is kind of what has helped me to continue pushing, continue being successful, and continue to help me do things in a way where I can provide for myself and I can provide for the people around me. Not just money, but also like support, care, mental fortitude, being a pillar that people can rely on. These are all things that people generally want, or maybe you might even want. And if you do, the first step is to make yourself grow, right? Like if you really want to be there for people, or you really want to support people, it's kind of hard if you have 3 jobs and you're too busy trying to figure out your stuff for school, and you have family issues and stuff. Like you got to sort yourself out first. and you have to like ask yourself one question at a time. If you had a lot of issues like me, it's the same thing. You just have to take the time to tackle one issue at a time, and eventually it will go away. Time is beautiful that way. You know, you have time to figure out a lot of different things. I'm a personal case where I feel like I had so many problems and so many plates and so much weight that I was carrying on my shoulders. I thought that I would never clear any of it, and I thought it would take my whole life, and it didn't. So this didn't answer my question with figuring out my new purpose, but I think that might need to go into a different episode at a different time, because I think it's a deeper question. I think I'm going to have to come back with what I find. But if you're interested in knowing what I find and you aren't subscribed yet, then feel free to. Thank you all for... Oh my god, I hit my mic. Thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. I will catch you guys in the next episode. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to my yap. Hopefully you're tired and you're taking... Right, and you're really sleepy. And if you're not sleepy and you learned something, then I'm also happy. But, all right, I will see you in the next one.